Today I'm going to tell you about the Terraform FLATTEN function. I'm going to show you what it does and how you can use it in your Terraform infrastructure. So we're looking at the moment at the Terraform page, the documents, built-in functions, and if you look over here, there's a whole bunch of different functions: numeric, string, collection, encoding, blah blah blah, etc. The FLATTEN function is one of the collection functions. If I scroll down, then you can see it right there, flatten. And probably you and both I as well, first time we've ever seen it is in someone else's modules. So naturally we think, what is it used for? Let me show you what it's used for. Now I'm over on my terminal and I'm going to show you some Python code which will demonstrate what flatten does. So here we are, we have 3 lists and each one contains, in this case, strings. And this little code here, this script, will print out this list, and what we then do is we combine the list, and we just use this operator, the plus operator or the concatenation operator, to combine those 3 lists, so each of them have different fruits, into one overall combined list, and we're going to print that result. So let's do that now. So here we go. So it prints also the list here, press enter to continue, and the combined list is a new list which contains all of those elements together. And that is what flatten does. Although I've just shown you this in Python using the plus operator, in Terraform it's a similar thing. It takes a number of lists and it combines those into a new list. Let's look at the Terraform. So here we are in VS Code. We've got something very similar to before. We start off with a variable, and the type is a list of strings. So multiple list strings inside a list. So the outer list is purple or magenta or whatever, and the inner lists are square brackets that are blue. So you can see here the first list is apple banana, the second list has just got one element, orange, and the third list has got grape and kiwi. And then here we've got an output variable, and its value is, using this flatten function, on nested.list, which we defined the default variable here. And if I hover over here, you can see, or hover over flatten, you can see flatten takes a list and replaces any elements of the list with a flattened sequence of the list contents. Let me show you now. Let me run this Terraform. So here we are in a directory. I've got terraform.tf, exact same code we just looked at. I've got the state file here just to prove that I've already run the init and the plan, so we don't have to do it again. I'm going to do terraform output, and there you go. There's the flattened list that we created, and it's got all of those elements from the 3 lists that we looked at earlier combined into a new list. That's the square brackets there. Fantastic. Now before we move on to an example, the eagle eyes amongst you might have noticed that in Python we just use a plus operator. We didn't actually have a function. And the reason for that is there's no built-in function in the standard library for Python in order to do what we just did now with flatten in Terraform, because there's actually a number of ways to achieve that in Python. So as an example, this is actually how you can do it in Python. Nested lists, this is our starting variable, list of lists, and then you can define your own function, and in this case what they've done is they've said that for this parameter that is passed to it, this list of lists, you could say item for sublist in nested for item in sublist. So you know it's well, I don't know if it's ugly, but there's a number of ways to do it. This is just one way. Python leaves that to you. It gives you flexibility. You can do what you want, but in this case this function here will do the same as the flatten function that already comes with Terraform. I just thought I'd share that with you. Now finally, I want to share with you a real-world type example where you can use this in Terraform, why you would use flatten, what type of use cases you would use it for. So I have zoomed out a bit in order to get everything on one screen and make it easy for you to look back and forth, so apologies if that's a problem, but this is worth it. So here's an example of creating a virtual machine in AWS where you want to have your security group defined as one almighty big security security group. Let's have a look here. So here we go. We start with a variable called instances, and this is a list, as you can see here, of objects. That's the blue curly braces. So you can see here a list of objects, and within there we've got name, instance type, and security groups. Name and instance type are strings, so for example engineering, T2 micro, but the security groups are a list of strings, because you might have multiple security groups associated with your virtual machine category. That's what we should really consider these to be. It's like saying, if you're in the Department of Engineering, you will use a T2 micro, and your security groups will be these two. If you're in marketing, your security groups, you might just have chosen to have just the one. And actually, coincidentally, it is the same one that was used by engineering as well. If you're in sales, use a different security group. If you look, it's not used anywhere else because I don't see any of the highlights. And if you're in HR, you actually have two security groups, one of which happens to also be used by engineering, and the other one is unique to HR. So we have a configuration here that we've created, and this is quite common in Terraform, to create these kind of list of objects, or where you've got nested items within other items all rolled up into one. And then you just pass one variable to your modules or resource arguments or whatever. And what we're doing here now next is we're defining a local, and we're saying that we want to define something called all security groups, and we want to go over each of these and flatten them. So for instance, in var instances, we want to take the nested list security groups and we want to flatten them all, okay, and put it all in one. And then what we're saying here is we now have a new instance, it could be a brand new department or something, and for this instance we wanted to use all of these security groups because we want to have the maximum security available, and we want to use every security group that's ever been used in the company beforehand. And that's what's happening here. We're saying that for the argument VPC security group IDs, where we can list a number of them, we want to use all of the security groups that were ever used before because we already created this list of flattened security group IDs already. And by the way, there's one other minor thing. This thing here, distinct, what this does is you can think of it as having another name, unique. It will only grab us the unique security group IDs out of all of these, because remember, there's some repetition here, there's some repetition here. We don't want to repeat them. I don't think that will cause any errors, but it's nicer, it's cleaner if we can strip out the duplicates and only ever quote a security group ID once. And that is what distinct does in this case. So this is a classic example of where you would use flatten, and here's another clue when you would often use it, and it's this keyword here, for. So if you're ever using for, which means that you're iterating over several, in this case, of these nested security groups that are defined here within each object. When you're iterating, and it can be just for, or it can be for each, for example, that's another way of doing it, but whenever you're using for, you're iterating, that's often where you'll see flatten. And in this case, it is a way of passing all of these security group IDs, which are all embedded within objects within a list. When you do that, you need to flatten them. You need to get them all in one nice list again, instead of being nested security group and nested security group and nested. You can't pass a whole bunch of nested objects cleanly. You have to flatten them, and that's where the word flatten really comes from, that you're bringing it all together. So I hope that's a good idea for you of when you would use this in Terraform. You don't really need to worry about it unless you're using some kind of framework like this, where you've got a list of objects with various different things that are sort of nested, and you need to bring them all together, and you're iterating over using a for or for each. That's when you would typically use flatten. Otherwise, you're pretty much never going to have a need for it. So I hope you found this video interesting. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.